The title of this video said Art of Self-Defense and Movie Twist, so how I'm going to do this is starting off with reviewing Art of Self-Defense and connecting the ways it uses twists to wider techniques employed by other movies later on. There will be light spoilers, I'll talk about the structure of the movie, but keep names and specific events out of everything. Cool? Okay, here we go. 2019 was a great year for movies, and like all great movie years, there are those forgotten gems that are overlooked by award ceremonies and audiences. Art of Self-Defense is one of those, and it's one I'm surprised didn't get more attention because of its very relevant themes about toxic masculinity and the pressure trying to fit in socially. What's so refreshing about this movie is how it doesn't beat the audience over the head with what it's trying to communicate. No character says the words toxic masculinity, but the points being made are really obvious because of how the characters act and the subtext behind facial expressions and throwaway lines of dialogue. It doesn't go for cheap emotional appeals, instead just getting on with it and letting viewers realize things for themselves, which is a lot of fun when done right. The story overall is the best part. It's one of the tightest screenplays I've ever seen. Everything loops back and connects to previous themes, and it uses small details to make its world feel more authentic and engrossing. The locations add to this with their anonymity. There is very little driving shown in this movie, which is often used as a way to world build through dialogue for your exposition, which is the best kind of exposition. Silent driving scenes are so good they made a whole movie out of it, and it was awesome. Art of Self-Defense instead keeps things fragmented. The generic strip mall where the dojo is could be any strip mall in America, achieving universality by letting the viewers fill in the gaps with their own experiences, creating the roads in their mind that the characters took to get to a place. Then when the action starts to pick up, everything zooms out, expanding what we know about their town to fit the rising tension. The best way I thought of to analyze why I love this movie story so much is to look at how it uses twists, because those play an integral part in the narrative tapestry being created and is why I'm trying to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. This movie mainly employs two twists that are very different but both achieve the exact result they're going for that need to be looked at separately. Twists in movies are used for a variety of reasons. They keep the audience on their toes, can fit in with the tense atmosphere of a thriller, or just a convenient way to take the plot in a different direction from where it was initially. Obviously movies aren't the first to employ the twist, but they have done so for a very long time, with maybe the first twist ending in a movie appearing in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, a German movie which came out in 1920, where it was revealed that the entirety of the movie's events were a flashback. Well, this wasn't exactly a horror movie, it was styled like one, a gothic mystery with creepy sets and lots of shadows, and the twist would have kept up the eerie quality associated with it. This is one of countless twists used throughout cinema, and I'll focus on two main categories of them that Art of Self-Defense uses. The first twist in Art of Self-Defense is one that shifts the narrative. This is probably the most common kind of twist, often used when a previously good character is revealed to be the villain. Animated movies in particular have been heavily leaning into this recently, with a lot of villains being minor good characters early on. The advantage of this specific way of shifting the narrative is that you get to introduce the villainous character early on, while also keeping focus on the protagonist, who you also really want to develop obviously, since they're probably in the same physical location as the villain or performing similar roles. Then later, when you reveal the villain, you also create inbuilt sympathy for that villain, since they've been built up as good for some time. Narrative shifts basically alter everything going forward, but not that much before. This is most obvious in the kind of shifts where something suddenly happens, like a single event, a character unexpectedly dying that literally couldn't affect previous events since it came out of nowhere. But even villain reveals don't really affect what came before, since on rewatch the villain acts the same way, you just know that they're a villain this time. If a narrative shift is done poorly, it can completely derail what the movie has been building up and just feel out of place. I love Parasite, but the third act twist in that movie just felt like they didn't know where to take the story and were just making it up as they went along. It's not a terrible twist and the movie's still good during this time, but the scenes and themes that make Parasite so compelling and worthy of a Best Picture win are just thrown away in the last half hour. The best narrative shifts understand this and tie both parts of the story together. Often villain red herrings will be shown earlier to raise the stakes before the reveal, so that the villain feels like they've been there the whole movie, even though to the viewer they've just revealed themselves. The Art of Self-Defense goes a step further and makes the twist thematic. The way the characters act fits in with what the movie's trying to comment about today's culture, and you are both taken aback and not surprised, because who the characters are remain consistent even when what they do changes, which is something else this movie gets right. Then there's the second twist, which is a lot smaller in scale and importance, but it not only is a different type of twist altogether, it is also a really good example of that type. This twist is the context shift, where something happens that alters our perception of events before the twist. The "it was all a dream" development is the classic example here, but it isn't the only one. The twist in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari fits in this category as well, and maybe the most famous is The Sixth Sense. The revelation that, spoiler, Bruce Willis is a ghost, changes how scenes play out and what characters are doing and thinking about in those scenes. While Art of Self-Defense doesn't have anything monumental like this, the low-key nature of its final twist is actually a strength. Movies often unnaturally slow down during a twist reveal, using a whole scene just for the reveal, while here it's a throwaway line during a scene where something entirely different is happening. You as the viewer have to pick up on it, and while it is a blink and you miss moment, it reframes the entire narrative. Art of Self-Defense is the rare movie that understands exactly what it is and where it's going at all times. While the story is by no means a straight line and the core characters change a lot over the course of the movie, its consistency and cyclical nature make sure nothing feels jarring, every scene flows into the next. Rules are at the heart of the story, and this is carried in how it was written. Please watch this if you haven't already.